Hi ladies, it's Mr. O'Sullivan. Today we're going to be learning about solving equations. And this is geometry, so this is all review. So, again, your first unit of geometry is the algebra review unit, because guess what? In geometry, we do a lot of the stuff we did in algebra, mainly solving equations, some factoring. So this whole unit, we're just going to be looking at how to solve equations, how to factor. So this unit is not supposed to be easy, but it's supposed to be like just a refresher of what we did last year. So if you remember, last year we learned how to solve an equation by using the PCVNA technique. So the P stands for your parentheses, the C stands for combine your like terms, only one part of the equal signs at a time, so the questions that you need to ask yourself, so think about this. Do I have numbers I can combine? Do I have variables I can combine? But we need to make sure that we only combine one part of the equal sign at a time. So one of my tricks I told you, Miss Townsend told you last year, was cover the right side of your equal, then start combining, cover the left side of your equal, then start combining. Your variables, or your x's, should go on the left-hand side of your equal. If you know that I can have x on either side and I can move it, that's completely fine. Do whatever you're comfortable with, but just know that if you want to be consistent, just move the variables on the left-hand side. Get your numbers on the right-hand side of the equal sign. The questions you need to ask yourself for both the variables and the numbers are, do I have addition or subtraction? So one thing that I would draw on your papers, I remember because I would come over to you, each and every single one of you, and I would ask you, what does positive turn into? Well, positive turns into minus. What does a minus turn into? Yep, minus turns into a positive. And I would have you draw that on all your papers. That way you knew to use your inverse operations, okay? And then the last step is your A. Attached number to your x you get rid of by dividing. And the question is to ask yourself at this step, what number am I dividing by? So that is the steps for solving an equation. Now let's put them into practice. Our first example is 10 minus 4x equals 7x minus 23. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write out PCVNA. I'm going to write out PCVNA. And remember, P stands for your parentheses, C stands for combine like terms, N stands for move the numbers to the right, variable on the left, get rid of that x by dividing by the number, get rid of the number by dividing attached to your x. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask myself, do I have any parentheses in this expression or any parentheses in this expression? No, I don't have any parentheses. So what I do is I put a little check next to it to say I'm done with that step. Step 2, I'm actually going to do something a little different. I'm going to cover up my right-hand side with this box. And I'm going to ask you, can I combine a 10 and a negative 4x? No, I can't combine a 10 and a negative 4x, so I simply just rewrite my 10 minus my 4x. And I set it equal to something. And I ask myself, can I combine a 7x and a negative 23? No, it's the exact same as before. So I'm going to do equal 7x minus 23. I'm just going to delete this box, that way it doesn't get annoying. And I did the C stage. I combined my like terms. Now, part 3 says move your variable to the left-hand side. Well, if you look at the right-hand side of your equal, I have a 7x. I have a question for you. Is that 7x positive or is it negative? Well, right now it's positive. So to get rid of a positive, I turn it into a minus. So I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides. So now that I subtracted my 7x is on the right-hand side of my equal cancel. So I'm left with 10, and then in my calculator I do negative 4 minus 7, or negative 4 plus a negative 7, because it's the exact same thing. And I should get negative 11x. That is equal to negative 23. So I moved all my variables, or all my x's, to the left-hand side. Part 3 says move your numbers that are by themselves to the right-hand side. Well, if I look at my left part of the equal, I got a 10 hanging out by itself. And if I look at the front, there's nothing in front of it, so it's a positive 10. I get rid of a positive by subtracting. So I take away 10 from both sides, take away 10. My 10s cancel, so I get negative 11x equals And I do on my calculator negative 23 minus 10, and I get negative 33. Your final step, divide both sides by the number attached to your x. So I'm going to divide by a negative 11, divide by a negative 11. My negative 11s cancel, so I get x equals positive 3. Because negative 33 divided by negative 11 is positive 3. If you're a little stuck, please rewind, rewatch, whatever your heart desires, but just know that we're going on to the next problem. Question number 2. First step always, rewrite your device. Rewrite P, C, V, N, A. P stands for your parentheses, and I get rid of them by distributing. I ask myself, do I have parentheses anywhere in my expression? I don't see any. Oh wait, I do, they're right here. I'm gonna underline it. And the number attached to my parentheses is a 4. So remember, 4 is like that bird in Angry Birds. It's gonna fly up, hit my x, it's gonna fly up and hit my negative 1. Negative 1. So I ask myself, what's 4 times x? Well, 4 times x is 4x. What's 4 times negative 1? It's negative 4. And then I do not distribute my 4 to this part of my expression, I just rewrite it. So I now have positive 4x minus 1 equals 19. So I now no longer have any parentheses, so I'm gonna put a check next to the P. Part C says combine like terms. So remember, we look at one side at a time. So I'm gonna bring out my handy dandy box and cover up the right-hand side of my equal. I look and I say, can I combine anything? X's with X's, numbers with numbers, so I'm gonna combine. I have a like term with my 4x with my positive 4x. Make sure that you carry the sign with it. 4x plus 4x is 8x. And now I combine my numbers. Negative 4 with negative 1. I type it in my calculator, negative 4 minus 1, or negative 4 plus a negative 1, and I get minus 5. Now I cover up my left-hand side, and I say to myself, can I combine 19 with anything? Well, 19's by itself, so I'm just gonna rewrite it. And so I now have my 19 on the right-hand side of my equal. So I combined my like terms. Now it says move all your variables to the left-hand side. Well, if I look at this side of my equal, there's no variable, so I'm already done with that stage. Part 4, move all numbers that are hanging out by themselves to the right-hand side. Well, if you look, I got a minus 5 here, so I'm gonna add 5 to both sides, add 5. 19 plus 5 is 24. So I get 24 equals 8x. And the way to get rid of that 8 is to divide. Divide by 8, divide by 8, and I get x equals 3. And that's your final answer. Cool, now let's go on to our next question. So if you feel confident, what you can do is you can do the next 2 questions by yourself and take your time with them. Just know that the Edpuzzle will keep playing. You can mute me, or you can just follow along to make sure you're doing them correctly. So again, the first thing we should always do with these questions is write down P, C, V, N, A. If you know the rules and you don't need to do it, you don't have to. Just do whatever makes it work. As long as you get them right, Miss Daniel and I will be extremely, extremely happy. So I'm going to write P, C, V, N, A. The first step is, do I have parentheses? So I'm going to cover up the right-hand side of my equal, just so I can focus on one side at a time. And ooh, I do have parentheses. Darn, I hate when I have parentheses. Just kidding, they're my favorite. But inside my parentheses, I have a negative x. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 1 in front of my x as a placeholder. That way I know that I have to multiply by a 1. So I'm going to distribute my positive 4, or Angry Bird it, you might have heard me say a lot last year. I'm going to distribute my positive 4 to both terms on the inside of my parentheses. So I'm going to distribute it to my 1 and my negative 1x. So 4 times 1 is a positive 4. 4 times negative 1x is negative 4x. And I'm not going to distribute it to this 3x. I'm just going to bring it down for the ride. Now my next step, I'm going to move my box. I'm going to move my box to the left-hand side of my equal sign. That way I'm only focusing on one part at a time. And now I have a -2 times x plus 1. So again, I'm going to do my 1 in front of my x as a placeholder. I'm going to distribute that -2 or angry bird it to both terms on the inside. So when -2 is multiplied by 1x, I get -2x. And -2 times 1 is -2. So now that I have everything distributed, I'm going to get rid of my box because it's a little overwhelming. And now I have 4 minus 4x plus 3x equals -2x minus 2. So my parentheses are gone, so I am done with that stage. Now I'm at the C stage, where I combine my like terms one side at a time. Ooh, my box is making an appearance again. I couldn't get rid of it. I'm sorry, I had to. So now what we're going to do is, we're going to combine our like terms. So I have to ask myself, what are the like terms on the left-hand side of my equal? Well, the like terms are -4x and +3x. So I'm going to circle them so I can combine them. And I ask myself, what's -4x plus a 3x? Well, -4 plus 3 is 1. So I'm really doing, -1, sorry. So I'm really doing 4 minus 1x. And that's equal to, I'm going to move my box. That's equal to -2x minus 2. So now I combined my like terms because there's nothing I combine on the right-hand side because -2x and -2 are not like terms. They both need an x or they just both need to be numbers. My next step is to move my variables to the left-hand side so that -2x becomes a +2x. +2x. My -2x's cancel. So I'm left with 4, and then -1x plus 2x, when I combine them, is a +1x. And that's equal to -2. Now I need to get rid of my numbers on the left-hand side of my equal. So now I subtract 4 from both sides, subtract 4, and I get 1x equals -6. And if you want, you can divide by 1, and I get x equals -6. And that's your final answer. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but we are now on to our final example. And I'm going to do PCVNA yet again. And what's nice about this one is there's no parentheses. So if I look, there's no parentheses, so I immediately just cross that step out and I skip it. Step 2 says combine your like terms. So I'm going to combine my like terms one side at a time. So I'm going to pretend my right-hand side doesn't exist. And now I combine my like terms. I say y's with y's, x's, numbers with numbers. So I have 7y and a -3y. 7y minus 3y is 4y. And then I have 5 plus 1, which is a +6. And that's equal to 2y plus 2. So I combine my like terms, now I move my variables to the left-hand side. So to get rid of a +2y, I minus 2y. Minus 2y. 4y minus 2y is a 2y. And then I get my +6. And that's equal to 2. Because my 2y's cancel out. My variables on the left-hand side, now I need to get those numbers on the right. I get rid of my +6 by subtracting 6, and I get 2 minus 6 is a -4. So my numbers are on the right, and now I get rid of this 2 by dividing. So I get y equals -2. And that's your final answer. So your practice for today's classwork is to complete a delta math. If you have any questions, email myself or Miss Daniel. Again, if you're stuck, please rewatch this video or watch the delta math videos. That's why they're there. Have a great day, ladies.